So you want to be wealthy, but you don't have any money. What to do? Crypto. Just kidding. Don't do that. All right, so we obviously all want to make more money and have more success year after year. And I think that's a good goal to have. For a lot of us, life would get pretty boring if we didn't have any ambition or milestones that we wanted to cross during our short time here. So if you're like me, you've probably chosen personal finance or something similar as your ambition outlet, so to speak. But what's the best way to go about actually making money or getting wealthy when you don't have any money now? Well, that's what we're going to try to answer in this video. Now, I know everyone on YouTube says this, but I encourage you to watch this whole video because there's a lot of different pieces to this one. And I think someone struggling with money could really get a lot out of this video if you stick through it. So whether you're already approaching retirement age or you're still a student in school, if you want to get to a point where you can comfortably retire and spend your time doing the things you like not having to work unless you want to, here's sort of the general framework that most people take so they don't have to work anymore, or so they can spend their time doing the things that actually bring them happiness. So the number one way to get wealthy is to pick an avenue to invest in. And I'll probably spend the most amount of time in this category because there's a lot of different approaches you can take to investing. Investing is arguably the highest priority item on this list for the majority of us. Because if you nail down a good long-term investment plan, you could potentially do nothing else correctly and still retire in your 40s, especially if you're starting on the younger side. So when it comes to investing, the most common and probably most beneficial for the vast majority of us is investing in a 401k, which is a way to invest through your employer when you start a new job at a different company. And for those that aren't familiar with a 401k, here's a basic summary. So 401k is an investment savings plan where the employer signs a contract to allow you, the employee, to put some of your money in an investment account that grows over time. So there's really two main selling points to a 401k. So first, the 401k is a tax-advantaged account, which means that you get certain tax breaks or credits from using this system that you wouldn't get if you used a different form of investing, like index funds in the stock market, for example. And I'll make a separate video on a more detailed description of the 401k, but for now, I'll just stick to the basic concepts. So with a 401k, you put a certain amount of your paycheck into the 401k account. You also won't be taxed on the amount of money that you put into the 401k when it comes to your income tax. So if your income is $50,000 a year and you put $5,000 into your 401k each year, only $45,000 of that $50,000 will actually be considered taxable income. The second main perk of investing in a 401k through your employer is that a lot of companies have an employee match, which just means that they contribute some money to your investment account to help your investment grow even faster. And you aren't taxed on any of that money that they put in, so this is really as close to free money as you get. Also, if you change jobs, you can keep all the money that's in your 401k account and you can roll it over to the next company that you start working for. And just for fun, here's what a 401k would look like if you contributed $1,500 per month with an 8% return over 15 years. So at the end of that 15-year period, you would have roughly $511,000 in your retirement account, and you would have only put in about $270,000 of your own money into that account. And if your employer offered a match, this number would be even higher. So you can see why compound interest and starting early really starts to add up over time. So the next type of investing that a ton of people have used for literally thousands of years is real estate. So let's say you buy a house for $300,000. If that house appreciates by an average of 4% per year and you keep the house for 15 years, it would be worth roughly $540,000 at the end of that 15-year period. So that percentage of growth that you make year after year is the power of investing. Right, because if you just park $300,000 in cash under a mattress, it's still going to be just $300,000 in 15 years from now. And because of inflation, that $300,000 would be worth considerably less than it is now 15 years later. So the other way you can make money in real estate is by combining home appreciation with rental income. So let's say you buy that same $300,000 house. We know that's going to be around $540,000 in 15 years. But what if you rented out that house during that 15-year period? Let's say you rented that house out for around $2,000 per month and you raise the rents by about 3% per year. That would be an additional $455,000 during that 15-year period of time. So now your $300,000 house has generated an average of about $695,000 of income over that 15-year period of time. And obviously this doesn't include all the expenses like utilities and property tax and repairs and vacancy between tenants, but you can at least see why so many people might want to go into real estate. So imagine if instead of one $300,000 house, you had 5. Well, that would be millions of dollars of additional income over that 15-year period. So now to change gears a little bit, the next way to build wealth when you have no money is to invest in yourself. And obviously this can have an endless amount of meanings, but I'll focus on two, which is health and education. In 2023, the average American family spent almost $12,500 per person on healthcare per year, which not only directly takes money out of your pocket, but also indirectly affects you financially by reducing the amount of hours you can work and the quality of work that you can do when you aren't at your healthiest. Not to mention, being sick sucks. So your $15 membership at Planet Fitness might save you thousands of dollars per year. Not to mention, it could probably buy you an extra decade or two of life. And obviously, wealth doesn't matter a whole lot if you spend that time either sick or dead. So in all seriousness, investing in a gym or some sort of cardio or some type of sports activity where you can get your blood flowing might be the best way to not have to spend a ton of money each year on things like medical expenses. And this is one of those points that I really want to drive home because I don't really hear many finance guys talking about the importance of staying healthy. So on a somewhat related side note, the average male alcohol drinker who has about 14 drinks per week spends almost $5,100 on alcohol alone. So something to keep in mind if that applies to you. But for real, cut back on the alcohol and go to the gym. I guarantee you'll make more money and spend less money each year just from being healthier and having more energy. So the other form of investing in yourself is through education. Now this doesn't mean going hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt for an art history degree, but if you can find something you're more interested in than your current job, maybe see if some additional education could lead to a better income down the road. So the average American that completes at least a bachelor's degree earns a significantly higher salary than their high school graduate counterparts. And those that completed graduate school earned an additional $1.5 million when comparing median lifetime salary over those that didn't. Again, this varies wildly based on what degree you get, but in theory, higher education means more knowledge, and that tends to translate to more money. So if you're still in high school and you can find a reasonably priced college, it's probably a good idea to get additional education so long as you're looking at a higher paying major. So the next way you can get wealthy if you don't have much money yet is to start a business. As you know, the world runs on businesses. Businesses create jobs, stimulate the economy, and offer resources and products to customers that other businesses don't. So if you have a new or better way of solving a problem, starting a business could be the fastest way to wealth. For example, Jeff Bezos saw the future of online shopping and decided he could more easily sell products and books online. And Henry Ford realized that cars were a hot commodity, but at the time only the ultra wealthy could actually afford to buy a car. So he came up with a solution to mass produce cars by using cheaper materials and by using an assembly line, and was able to bring millions of people cars who would have otherwise not been able to afford them. While starting a business certainly won't be easy, and in fact over 65% of businesses fail within the first 10 years of opening, if you have that kind of drive and problem solving skills, you can make more money through business than any other venture. And if you have a good enough idea and skill set, you can take out a loan and start a business with virtually no money of your own. All right, so switching gears to a totally different topic, another way to start building wealth with virtually no money is by figuring out a way to get your current expenses covered. So obviously you can try to reduce your spending by as much as possible, but at some point you'll hit a wall where you just won't be able to spend any less per month. But if you can figure out a way to get your big expenses covered, like housing, transportation, food, etc., you can get to the point where you can save like 70% of your paycheck because you just won't have that many expenses that you have to make payments on every month. Right, so maybe you have a small house where you pay $1,000 a month for a 30-year mortgage. So if you don't have a large family, you might be able to rent out one or two of those rooms so that you can actually get that $1,000 a month mortgage paid for. So this isn't a new idea by any means, and a lot of people call this house hacking, but it's been done successfully thousands of times. And if you have the patience for a roommate, you could potentially live for free in your own house. Another possibility if you live in a relatively large city is to find a replacement for your car. And maybe you can't sell your car because you might need it some of the time, but you could try doing a delivery service like Uber or Grubhub, or you could rent your car on Turo or something similar if you have a more desirable car. Also, a lot of the delivery apps like Uber let you deliver on a bike, so you could make a pretty decent amount of money while also getting in better shape. And that might be worth a shot if you live in a more densely populated area. So I tried to come up with a way to reduce food costs, and to be honest, I really couldn't come up with a whole lot. But the big thing here is to try to meal prep foods that are both healthy and affordable, and also prevent you from going out to eat every month. So there's really no way to eat for free unless you live on like a massive farm or you work for a restaurant or something, but you can probably find a way to spend less on food and eating out. So after you work your way through a few of these ways to either earn more or reduce your expenses, the next thing I would do is make a 1, a 5, and a 10-year financial goal. So this doesn't have to be anything overly creative, but if you just spend a few minutes thinking about where you want to be at each stage of your life, these goals can sort of help shape and guide your decisions on a daily basis. So let's say you make $40,000 a year at a job that you've been at for a while. Maybe your goal sheet could look something kind of like this. Make $50,000, buy a house, be financially secure. So obviously these goals are going to be heavily personalized, which is why you need to make your own goals. But here's an example of what this person could do. So for goal 1 of making $50,000, this could be making a lateral move to a different company that pays you more for your current skill set. Or maybe you move into management where instead of having to be assigned goals and projects that you have to complete each week, you get paid more to lead a team of people to complete that same project. So that's just one example. So for the second goal of buy a house, so not only are you trying to increase your income, but now you have to also focus on saving more money. So if you weren't really focusing on saving beforehand, now you have to really hone in on those savings tips that we talked about earlier so that you can get that 10 or 20% down payment. And lastly is goal 3, which is to be financially secure. For most people, I would say this means having some money in both savings and retirement accounts, having about 6 months or so worth of expenses set aside in an emergency fund, and also having quite a bit of your house paid down, maybe even the whole thing. And the good thing about paying off your house quickly is that if you lose your job, your expenses will probably be so low that you can take your time finding a new job and not really have to worry about much else. So for me personally, I plan on buying my first house in the next 2 years or so, and I'm most likely going to pay it off as quickly as possible so that I can do whatever I want for work and not have to worry as much about making a big monthly payment on a mortgage each month. And I'll talk about the pros and cons of doing that in another video sometime, but I think for most people that sense of security would be a really good thing to have. So after you make your personal finance goals, the rest of it is really pretty much all mental, right? The reality is most people could probably be wealthy enough to retire in their 40s if they lived pretty far below their means and they focused heavily on investing, but that takes a lot of mental sacrifice that people just aren't really willing to do in a lot of cases. So I think the big takeaway here is that if you realize that you're okay with living a bit differently than your average person, you're already so far ahead of people with your mindset that it's very likely that you'll be able to be more financially well off than most people for the rest of your life. The crappy part about just having to sacrifice your time for money is really just temporary. And if you're able to get your income up and you get a house at a relatively young age, you'll probably be able to return to a more enjoyable lifestyle in just a few years. Because obviously giving up the stuff that you like doing isn't going to last forever. And if you make good decisions, you'll be able to do that stuff that you like doing for way more time than most people ever will. But those few years of sacrifice will make all the difference, and that'll be the thing that sets you apart from your peers. I honestly think most people would do really well if they just dedicated 4 or 5 years of extreme commitment to personal finance. But most people spend their 20s either getting drunk or just buying and doing things that don't even really bring them true pleasure. So in all reality, you probably won't even be giving up all that much in enjoyment in life. Okay, so now for a little bonus tip. Don't have kids before you're financially well off. Now, I'm not saying you have to have millions of dollars to have a kid, but don't be having children when you can't even afford to buy a car. The average kid can cost around $20,000 per year, and unless you're already doing pretty well, this is going to take a huge toll on your financial budget. So by all means, get married, get a dual income, and find a partner who is as committed as you are. But anyway, I hope this video was beneficial to you in some way. But either way, leave me some feedback, and I'll be happy to read anything you guys leave in the comments. And if you want to follow me on Instagram or shoot me an email or something, I'll leave both of those in the description. So thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.